What's up everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So today I just wanted to kind of tell you guys where we are at in our foster care journey, and also just kind of like how the process was going through this in the state of Virginia, because that's where we are currently living. So we actually decided not to go through the state involving foster care. We went through a private agency. So we're going through an agency called Extra Special Parents. Now the first thing that had happened is I actually received an email from them at the end of April saying that they were doing foster care classes and that they were online. But I think I had signed up for emails before when I was looking at foster care agencies, and so they still had my email address from like years previously. So they sent me an email about the foster care classes. I immediately replied back and said like, yes, we want to sign up for them. And it was just a couple of days later, I think it was 2 or 3 days later, that we actually got to be in the class. So our classes were on a Zoom call. We did it every Saturday for 4 Saturdays. And so we actually did 2 sessions every Saturday, where I think normally you go to like 6 to 8 classes in person and you only do 1 session each class. And I know that they said that they did a lot more like interactive type classes, and they would have like snacks and drinks and stuff like that. But ours was literally just on Zoom. We sat on our couch, you know, it was on the computer. You kind of introduced yourself a little bit, but then most of the time you were just going through like PowerPoints. Some of the stuff I already knew from the Instant Family movie, and I feel like that movie does reflect kind of a lot of what it's like to become a certified foster parent. But I definitely feel like so far being certified, it wasn't as big of a headache as I felt like it was going to be, or I felt like I've heard it's been. Yes, some of this stuff is like kind of just irritating, having to fill out all this paperwork and stuff, but in reality it wasn't as hard as we expected it to be. Every week for those classes there was like a survey we had to take, and you had to like sign it, and then you had to rescan it in and email it back. But I mean, that wasn't that big of a deal. We pretty much just did classes for the whole month of May, and then in June was kind of when we started doing a lot of the paperwork stuff, which did take quite a lot of hours. So first off, you had to write a 4 to 10 page autobiography of yourself. Now it wasn't totally from scratch. They gave you this huge list of questions that you had to answer in your autobiography. So I think mine came out to like 5 pages maybe, but they were definitely like really hard questions to answer, because they really dealt with the way that you were raised, the way that you were disciplined, what you think about certain subjects, how your family showed affection to you growing up, you know, if your parents are married, divorced, how many relationships did they have, how well do you get along with your siblings. There was a lot of deep questions like that, so you had to kind of go back from the beginning of your life and write this autobiography that might not have all good things about you in it. Now after writing the autobiography, there was plenty of other paperwork that we had to do. There was still a lot of more like question paperwork that had some like really hard questions on it as well, such as like, what would you do if a foster child was masturbating like in a room? What would happen if a child like had sexual advances towards you? And so there were a lot of these like deep dark questions that we really didn't even think about, because like I feel like most people probably don't even think about that until they have kids that are an age that could do something like that, or maybe they never think about it at all until it actually happens. So I did reach out to just a lot of my really close friends and kind of got a lot of different people's opinions on everything that already had children, so they kind of maybe thought about it in their own sense of it, their family. But after like kind of hearing what everyone else said, Alan and I kind of like sat down and thought about like what we would do in this situation, and so we tried to answer the questions as honestly as possible. A lot of things they kind of teach you that, you know, you're going to have to like seek guidance anyway from the foster care agency, so you're not going to be like dealing with all of this stuff yourself. So one of the correct answers for a lot of those things is that you're going to reach out. You have to kind of report everything. So it's not like all of the responsibility is on your shoulders, but you do have to be open to communicating this with the child. Just to give you a gist of all the paperwork that we did, this is the amount of paperwork. We had to print everything off, and so this is the amount of paperwork you're going to have to like sign, write, type, whatever it is, that's what you're going to have to do. So we did have to do a CPR First Aid class, but we were able to take it online. So we both got our certificates online. This was a class online that was like integrative. So you would like watch this like little clip and then you could like move people around and like help people. But that did take 3 hours of consecutive work to complete all those modules. You also had to pay for that out of pocket, which I think wasn't bad. I think it was like $32 for each of us. But you know, if you don't want to go to an in-person class, I think this was just American Red Cross that we actually went online, and they had online classes that we could take. And it was the adult, child, and baby first aid CPR AED online only class. Then we had to fill out a driving record questionnaire. You have to have a DMV record, like your driving record. All of that stuff has to be printed off. We had to draw a fire plan, like by hand. You had to draw a fire plan with the floor plan of your house and instructions on how to get out, and that you do have to have posted up in a visible area, especially when they come for the home study. We also had to fill out this willingness to foster scale, which is a score from like 1 to 4, where you say how likely or unlikely you would like to foster children that have different emotional or behavioral problems. So just a couple things on this list to let you guys know, like a child who is cruel to animals, a child who threatens to run away, a child who has poor hygiene, a child who lies, a child with physical handicaps, a child with diabetes, a child with Down syndrome. There's like so many. There was literally, I think, like 40 questions on this, and they want you to be honest about it. And then you also say, if you want to do infants, girl, boys of 1 to 5 years, girl, boy of 6 to 12 years, girl, boy 13 to 18 years, child who is homosexual, child of a different race, child of a different religion, child of a different culture. So there's a lot of things that you have to like be open and honest, especially with your spouse, about what you are willing to foster. Of course, you needed copies of your W-2s, of your birth certificate, of your driver's license, of your vehicle registration, of your insurance. Literally every important document that you've ever thought of, you have to have a copy for them. We also, since we have a pet, we had to go get him a rabies shot, make sure he was updated on his vaccinations, and we have to have his pet registration to send into them as well. There was a foster parent questionnaire we had to fill out that we had to describe each of ourselves and our personalities, and then we had to say what our interests are, describe our home, our community. We had to describe our marriage and family, and we had to say how we would discipline our children and how that would be different from disciplining a foster child. We also had to look up the school district information and have that readily available. We are currently undergoing a fingerprint test that we have to do, which we're actually doing tomorrow. So we have a fingerprint test that we both have to do, which was paid for by the foster agency. And then we're also getting our physical exams tomorrow, and we have to take a TB test tomorrow. So those are the 3 things that are like last on our list that we're getting all done tomorrow, which I'm really excited about. We also had to fill out a financial verification. So you had to write down all of your bills, how much they cost, how much money you make, and they really need you to be able to obviously like be able to live without paying for any expenses for the foster child. You are reimbursed up to a certain amount every single month, but you definitely need to make sure that you're not going into this for money, because you're not going to be making a lot of money off of this. It's all for caring for the child, and so they want to make sure that you can already pay your bills without that extra income. There was also an application process that we still had to fill out. And so that was another thing where you had to put a bunch of information. You had to put like your name, your social security, your address, phone numbers, all that kind of stuff, and then also employment status. You also had to give 3 references. So they sent out letters to those references and they had to receive those back. And then you had to have a foster care emergency and disaster plan. So you had to write up like the first choice of people that they would call, the second choice of people that they would call, and you had to sign and verify that that information was correct. Okay, I think I literally went through all of the paperwork. That was literally all of the paperwork that we filled out. It does just take a long time to make sure that you sign all of it and make sure that you're not forgetting something on the page. So I feel like the most time that it took was definitely having to like write your autobiography and answer all those questions and stuff. And then obviously the signing the paperwork isn't as much like mentally exhausting, but it's definitely exhausting when you're having to do it all in like a couple days time span. This has has gone a lot faster than we expected it to be, but I think it is because they do need foster parents, so they're kind of like emailing us every couple days saying, hey, did you get this paperwork done? You probably could draw this out longer, and then maybe it wouldn't be as much paperwork all in one time span. So once all that paperwork was finished, then they actually had to do a couple interviews with us, and these were over a Zoom call, and so we had to do one each separately. So I had to be separate, and then Alvin had to be separate. Both of those lasted probably about 2 hours on average, and then we did one interview together, both Alvin and I together, and that one was probably only about like 30 minutes. The interviews consisted of them actually just talking kind of about our autobiography, asking us those questions all again, but kind of like being able to talk about it like in person, except these were Zoom calls again. But I was really nervous for those. I was actually really nervous for those because I hadn't talked to any of like the social workers yet, and so that was like really intimidating because since we didn't go to any in-person classes when we were taking the training, I felt like you didn't really know those people and they didn't really know you, and so I just felt like, oh, are they gonna judge me just from like, you know, the outside or anything like that? But they're actually super nice, like super nice people, and it was actually really easy. It went really well, and after we got those interviews done, then the home study came along. So the home study I was also pretty nervous about because like I've just heard like, I feel like I've heard horror stories here on YouTube where like the home study is so hard, but they just came, they let us know like when they were coming, and of course like I'm a really clean person and I'm a minimalist, so I feel like my house like looks super clean all the time anyway. I was hoping that wasn't gonna draw any red flags. I was like, this is me, like this is who I am. But they came in and one of the ladies was talking to us and kind of just asking us about like placements, and we were asking her questions, and then the other lady was going around with her checklist and making sure that we just had everything that we needed, or that it was a safe environment. So like she made sure we had our fire extinguisher, that the fire plan was up, and all that kind of stuff. So that was really fast. I think they were only here for probably about like 20 minutes, 25 minutes maybe, and they said that everything was great, everything was perfect. And so that was like super encouraging that like there wasn't even anything that, you know, maybe we didn't notice and we had to get done. It was very just easy, and I didn't even have to have the headache of thinking about it. Things that you just have to have ready for the home study is obviously you have to have a bedroom set up. It doesn't matter if you have like just a bed or a crib, one or the other is fine. You can get more stuff once you find out what the age of the placement is, but you had to have a bed, an end table, a dresser for the foster child. There had to be like screens on the windows, and the door had to be open and be able to open and close. There had to be some type of area outside for the child to play in, so even if you don't have a backyard, there had to be like a park down the street or just somewhere that you could take the child to play. You had to have your emergency and contact list up on the refrigerator. You had to have all your guns and ammunition locked up but separate from each other, so the keys had to be separate. You'd have all of your medicine and alcohol in 2 different lock boxes. We don't really have any liquor or anything, so we didn't have to worry about that, but any type of like Tylenol or ibuprofen or anything, we had to get a little lock box and we put it in our closet. So now that the home study is done, we actually had gone away for a beach vacation for a week, so coming back we actually just got Graham's like pet stuff done. So he just got his rabies shot and his registration. We sent all that over, and so we are working on the last couple things, which is getting our TB test, getting our fingerprints, which they actually scheduled through the agency, so we didn't have to worry about scheduling that, and our physicals done. We're gonna go get our physicals and our TB test done at a Med Express because we called and they said they could do that, so that's really easy. We should just be able to hop on over there after our fingerprints tomorrow morning and get that done, and then after that they just have to get all that information and I guess make sure that we're certified. So I'll have to update you guys once we actually officially get certified. This is just me telling you like all of the step process of how it's been so far in Virginia, but honestly it has been a lot easier. It's gone so fast, and so I feel like we're definitely going to be getting a placement here in July. Like, can you guys believe it? Like, that is so crazy, so exciting. I literally cannot wait to tell you guys all about it. And if you guys are interested in like any type of foster care things, like definitely drop any questions down below in the comment box, because this channel I kind of want to turn into a family channel. I always did want it to be a family channel because obviously I thought I was going to have a lot of kids, But now with foster care, and especially with fostering to adopt, I do want this to become more of a family mommy type channel. Like, I'm totally gonna be that Pinterest mom that makes all those cute little lunch boxes, and I'm so excited. So if there's any videos that you definitely want to see in the future, maybe I can do some vlogs about being a foster mom without like showing the child. I'm just like really excited, and I hope you guys are too. That's it for this video. If you have any other questions, just let me know, and I will see you guys very soon in another video. Bye everyone.